Alright, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Racha HaKodash. That honors the apostles, elders, great millstone, who rule and teach well. Shalom Barakiam to you brothers and sisters out there. This is Brother Malachi from the Great Millstone Nashville camp. And Lord, when that this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. Alright, just an in-trans lesson, going home, stuck in some bad traffic. Figured might as well just go ahead and make use of my time now and, put something on wax. So, Lord willing, it's edifying. Pray it is. Lord willing, that it's exhorting. Basically, the title, endure on to the end. Which, obviously, is easier said than done. Alright, but we just got to continue. We got to continue to fight for our crown every day, no matter what. And like it says in the book of Sirach, it mentions how work your work, diligently. Well, let me just grab it real quick. I should be able to do that because we ain't moving very fast. I can pull this. What is it? B times, alright? Work your work B times. Yep. Sirach 51 and 30. It says, work your work B times, and in his time he will give you your reward. So, the Lord did not tell us what day we're getting out of here. We don't know when Yahweh Shai is coming back. Not even Yahweh Shai knows when he's coming back. He told us that. He said only the Father knows. So we don't know. But we do know that we are in the latter days, that we're in the end times. We do know and understand that America is on its last leg. All these prophecies are kicking off, heating up. Every month there's new things going on. Every week, every day. It's a beautiful time to be alive, and not only be alive, but to be actually alive. And by that I mean in this truth. Alright, because remember, like it says in the book of Proverbs, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So yeah, their heart's beating, their lungs are inhaling and exhaling, but they're not actually alive. They're dead, in their brain. The spirit is null and void. And the Wadiyah Bashmel Shai, that's not the case for us. For those of us that are in this ministry, we have hope. We know that America's circling drain. We know that it's getting more difficult out here because we're growing in the spirit and the Lord is nigh at hand. Alright, that should come in the end of the world, the end of Esau's age. He's on his way. But until then, we have to work. We have to, like Scripture say, if a man doesn't work, neither shall he eat. We got to put in the work. You got to pray, you got to fast. You got to do the things necessary, to be found worthy in that day, to get delivered. Or even being a martyr, just, to be part of the remnant. Because like it says in 2 Ezra, the 9th chapter, talks about how faith and works. So, you need to have faith, and you also need to have works. Because like it says in James, the 2nd chapter, you can't have one without the other. Okay? Faith without works is dead, and what's the point in going out to camp and doing lessons and praying if you don't actually believe? Right? So you got to have both. James 1 and 22. Be ye therefore doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. You see, you need to actually apply these scriptures, and you apply them 24/7. 7 days a week. 12 months out the year. 365 days, I think, is how many days Esau has on his calendar. Or something like that. Well, you got to be in this to win it. Because remember that the works that you do, they're not going to follow you unless you endure unto the end. If you throw in the towel, you're throwing in the towel on your salvation as well. So keep that in mind. And you throwing in the towel isn't going to stop the prophecies from coming to pass. It's like it says in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, I believe it is, though it tarry, wait for it, for it will surely come, it will not tarry. The prophecies, yeah, they might take a little bit of time, but it ain't going to take forever. Romans 13:11, though. Our salvation is nearer than when we believed. We're a lot closer than we think we are to the end, man. A lot closer. And, you know, all we can do is praise Yahweh Shemel Shai for that. The Wadi Yahweh Shemel Shai, because we're, you know, beyond tired of Babylon and what it has to offer. This whole world. So I got this thing pulled up here, this definition. It says, endure unto the end, the AI overview. It says, endure unto the end means to persevere and remain steadfast in one's faith and commitment to God, even through trials and tribulations until the end of one's life. Alright, and then Matthew 24:13. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. That's in red. Yahushua said that. Did Yahushua not endure unto the end? He did. Alright, look at all the prophets, the men of old. Did they not endure unto the end? They all did, right? Romans 15:4. They you know, these are recorded for us to be able to look at it as examples. You know, starting with Yahushua. You know, he had endured the torture, you know, and the execution of the cross, of being crucified. We're not going to go through anything remotely close to what he went through. All Jake got to do is go to work, man, pay some bills, you know, and then in the time Jacob's trouble, Jake just got to be hungry here and there. Or even if you got to be a martyr, man, the Lord isn't asking for much compared to what he's going to give us. Right? I believe Apostle Paul said these sufferings are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us, you know, in you. Bro, we are in the game. Like, we are exactly where we need to be. You're exactly where you should want to be if you want to actually get a dub. Because this is the winner's circle, man. This is the Lord basically said, look, invest, you know, invest everything you have. Be willing to sacrifice anything you have right now for my sake, and you're going to receive 100-fold in the kingdom of heaven, man. You're going to have eternal life without ever having to deal with any problems or drama of any sort. You're going to have anything you ever wanted in righteousness on top of it. You're going to have a new body that's programmed to be right. What more could we ask for? And all the Lord requires of us is just to deal with this, you know, albeit monotony, I believe is the word. You know, it's annoying as hell. You know, it's repetitive. Going to work, you know, Monday to Friday. You know, it's a robotic life. All right, but look at the dude to your right and the dude to your left. He's going through the same thing, but without the Holy Spirit. Or even worse, he's going through the same thing and he's not even an Israelite. At least we're Israelites doing this. And not only that, at least we're in the truth. We got the Lord. Most people can't say that, you know, which is why we got to be absolutely grateful and thankful to Yahweh Shemel Shai that we find ourselves in these situations. You know, because even like right now, you know, I was really supposed to already be home. I can sit here and I can get frustrated at it and I can get mad at it, but what good is that going to do? And then on top of that, it's fucking Monday. Still got a whole week. I'm not gonna start my week off getting irritated and pissed off over some minute bullshit like this. I know eventually I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna be able to do the things that I want to do. So who gives a fuck? You know, all these things that we find ourselves in. First of all, 1 Corinthians 10:13, right? The Lord is not gonna put us in a situation that we can't bear. Also, you know, we gotta be patient. You know, we gotta You know, because that's another thing. You know, like with traffic, we'll get upset about traffic, but it's like you could have been the person up there that caused the traffic, i.e., you know, getting put on a stretcher. So we got to be grateful. You know, it could be worse, man. It could always be worse. You know, could it be better? Yeah, it could be better. You know, but that's what the kingdom's for, right? We know this is not our rest. Micah 2:10. We just got to do what we can, you know, and don't beat yourself up either. You know, you try to get better, you try to improve, and you know, you're not going to be perfect overnight. And as long as you're making improvements, man, you know, because every week, you know, Monday, I'm like, damn, I regret doing this or regret doing that. I should have did this, should have did that. And I always got to remind myself, hey, man, it's easy to say, you know, well, I shouldn't have did this, I should have did this instead. Well, how about instead of worrying about the past and mistakes that we made and decisions that we made already, how about we worry about the future and what we can do to do better next time, you know? And I'm noticing every week, you know, every week I get better with these certain things, and Yahweh Ratazah, you brothers and sisters are as well, right? And that's part of enduring unto the end, examining yourself whether you be in the faith. Do you actually believe this thing? If you actually do, then you should be in it till the end. And if you're in it till the end, that means you need to have a lifestyle built around that, right? Which also means don't move too fast. You know, don't burn yourself out. You got to make sure you're balancing. You got to make sure you're taking care of your body. Make sure you're getting the exercise in. Make sure you got a good job so you can get some money, you know, so you can try to build up a little savings, or at least, you know, take care of your household, take care of yourself, you know, all these things. There's more to this truth than just doing videos. You know, videos is a very important thing right now, but what about in Jacob's Trouble? Videos aren't going to mean nothing, right? There ain't going to be no making videos in Jacob's Trouble, going to camp, all right? There ain't going to technically be no fasting in that time either. It's just going to be prayer, faith, and, you know, still brotherly love, charity, you know, because Jacob's Trouble is really going to show who's really about it, you know, separate the men from the boys, and all of us can say, well, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. We won't know until we're in that situation. You know, we won't know until we are truly put into that furnace of adversity spoken about in Sirach, the 2nd chapter. Okay? We don't know. You know, if it's you and a brother and you hungry as hell, both of y'all ain't eating in days, and you come across some food or something, are you gonna split that you know, you got a couple pieces of bread, are you gonna split it? Or are you gonna take it for yourself? Or are you going to take most of it for yourself? You know, we're going to be tested on a whole different level. All these tests we see now, these are tests, you know, but they're you know, they're not to say they're insignificant, because that would be a lie. You know, they're very important, but they're leading up to these bigger tests. You see? So just continue to fight through it, continue to grow. Pray, man. Pray. How about Shemel Sharatazah, that we can continue in faith, and you know, just never give up, man. All right, so Lord, when that this lesson was edifying. Before I close, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Bashemel Shai Bashem Rachah Kodash. The honor is the Apostle El's Great Millstone. Shalom.